apparently I can't conceive a child. That's why my husband left me. That's why he found a new lady really quickly. But when I discovered a secret that I didn't know about, I knew right then and there I had to tell everybody. Hello everyone, Claire here, 40 and female. I'm honestly writing to warn people of abusive behavior and what social pressure can do to you. When I was a kid, we were conditioned to believe that you would marry your Prince and Charming, and that's how your life would just automatically get sorted. All the movies and what your parents told you. Women are especially made to believe that we're the ones who need to try our best to save a relationship. Obviously, now that I'm a grown-up, I know what it means to put yourself first and call out and not take any bullcrap. But somewhere in the back of my head, I was that girl that my parents taught me to do whatever it took to save the relationship. All this led to an unbearably painful period in my life. I married Gareth. After just 6 months of seeing each other, we found each other perfect and had lots to talk about. I later realized that having loads to talk about wasn't enough to sustain a relationship. After we got married, he would be all sorts of abusive. Not physically, but emotionally. I tried so hard to save our marriage. I did. He had me convinced at one point that I was the problem, not him. He took a huge amount of money from me and invested it in his family business. We agreed that it's time that we have kids and tried for 6 months, but it just wasn't working. So, I could not get pregnant. He said I had fertility issues and refused to go to a gynecologist. He wasn't even open to try other options. He would flirt with other women and even go as far as cheating on me. Yep. When I confronted him, he said that I was getting old and out of shape and that it's my fault that he has to cheat. He divorced me for the reason that I was infertile. I didn't get anything from the divorce and I lost the money that Gareth invested. I was left tormented by the whole divorce and I absolutely just felt like a failure. He and his mom, Jennifer, told everyone the reason for the divorce and everybody knew was just gossiping about me. That's when I picked myself up and decided I was going to get a bit of revenge. I didn't know how I would, get back at him, but I got dirt on him and found out that he was the reason we could not get pregnant. I had to let everyone know the truth. And what better way to do it than do it on the wedding with his newfound love? Let me give you a little background on this because for the lot of this post, you're going to be judging me hard. I was the only child of my parents and we lived together in their huge house in a small town on the outskirts of a big city. My father, John, and my mother, Anne, lived in the city and decided it would be best to move into our town to have a big home and raise their child better. My parents moved when they found out my mom was pregnant with me. My mom quit working because my dad was able to provide for us, and they decided it's best if she stayed at home. We weren't filthy rich by any means, but we were financially strong. We never had problems related to money, and my dad even paid for my tuition. I didn't have any siblings, so I was pretty alone growing up. We seemed like the perfect family on the outside, but it was the opposite. After my mom got pregnant with me, my dad would regularly have these affairs and sleep with other women. He always came home late, drunk, reeking of alcohol and guess what, women's perfume. My mother did not even say a word. There was always silence between them and they would never talk or be a normal couple. Any conversation they would have was an argument. My mom knew my dad was unfaithful to her and my dad knew that my mom knew. The conversation just never came up and my mom never confronted dad, but she would subtly show that she held grudges and we would go out to social gatherings as a family, but we never went out to the movies or picnics as a happy family. My parents would laugh in front of everyone, but they were silent in secrecy. My mom was dutiful, and my mother, but would never talk to me or try to spend time with me. I never saw much of my father as a child. He was home for the weekends, but would rather spend time with his friends drinking and watching the games than with his family. I confronted my mom when I was a teenager and asked her why she wouldn't leave Dad. She told me that she loved him, and love was accepting of flaws. She stays with him for my sake and, to have a proper family. She said that it's enough for her that she provides us with everything and hopes that one day he will see her efforts and mend his ways. Guys, my father never changed, and things have always been bitter between them, and to this day, yeah, they're still together, but they only say what's necessary to each other and never talk. I grew up with their sad love story and trauma. Of course, I know what my mother did was not right. I would not romanticize it, and I later realized that it had subconsciously been passed down to me. I've never really had a successful relationship because I've always had a hard time setting boundaries, which has made the men in my life take me for granted. I don't know why men take women for granted, but it became a pattern for me. After failed attempts to find my love in my 20s, I decided to focus more on my career in my 30s. In my later 30s, I started getting pressure by everyone I knew to get married. My father's proud of how successful I am, but at the time my mother only wanted me to find myself a good partner and did not really care of my career. I kept brushing off other people's comments about me being unmarried, but deep down inside, yeah, I wanted it. I met Gareth at a business forum, and I fell when, well, my heels broke, and I banged my head on the floor. He rushed me to the hospital, and that's how we started our relationship. He had his own business of bathroom fittings, and I was head over heels in love with him. Our ideas meshed, and we had so much to talk about in the little time that we took to get busy. 5 months into our relationship, he popped the question, and without missing a beat, I basically screamed, yes, even though it was completely unexpected. A month later, we got married in a very intimate ceremony, and my mom was especially happy with the union. We had an amazing honeymoon, and when we got back, we were excited to renovate his house into a more couple-suited space. What initially started out as a relationship where we were on the same page started to squabble over the littlest of things. Our interior designer, Theo, jokingly told Gareth that, and I quote, "Oh, whatever the missus says goes, right?" But Gareth protested and told Theo that it was his house and his opinion mattered more than a woman's, as it's manlier to take charge. Well, I was offended by his statement, and initially I thought he was joking, so I told him off, for making such a cheap joke. He told me that I didn't need to be his mom just because I was older than him. I realized he was being serious with me at this point, and I let what he said go that day, but over time, I noticed him making all these misogynistic and patriarchal statements that straight up irked me. That's when I realized I made a mistake by marrying this man, but I subconsciously kept defending his toxic mentality. I wasn't really into investing or what they call growing money, but Gareth was. He suggested that he would invest my money in him and get more returns, and I said, I'm not interested. But it turned into an argument and called me dumb, unprogressive. I was hurt. I gave him a huge chunk of my savings to invest, and instead of investing it in my name, he took it from me and invested in himself. I found it a little odd, but I trusted him. I didn't want to argue over money because I was scared that he'd think I didn't trust him. I thought a lot before I said anything to him because I didn't want to offend him. If I said something, he would have often misunderstood me and gaslit me. We had a major fight when he discovered that my new personal assistant, James, was male and not a female assistant. He made a very big deal about it and did not rest until I let him go. It was very unprofessional of my part, but I had to do it for the sake of my own marriage. I paid him full compensation and also got him transferred somewhere else. He would be extremely insecure when I spoke of or spoke to other men. But on the other hand, he would constantly flirt with other women. I confronted him about his flirtatious behavior. He gave me the excuse that he could not help it. He said that he found other women hot. Yeah, and I'm just getting old. He said he wasn't as attracted to me as before because I'm aging. Our fights grew and he wanted to control everything around the house. He even picked what I ate and always decided for us and did not let me decide the most basic things, like what restaurant we should go to, and he even picked out the clothing I was going to wear most days. He told me I could not wear revealing clothing so that I would attract another man. Gareth brought up the fact that we should have kids and told me it was the only reason that he got married. I was shocked at what he said, but I was willing to have a child and was desperate to save my marriage with Gareth. I tracked my cycle, and yes, we got intimate when I was ovulating. I ensured that I was trying my best to have a baby. After about 3 months of trying, Gareth got frustrated and asked me why I was not pregnant yet. I told him I had no clue and suggested that we go to a gynecologist for suggestions. Gareth lashed out at me and called me a useless woman. He repeated about having kids was literally the only reason for the marriage and told me I was not serving my purpose and I was not a dutiful wife at all. He proceeded to brag about him being a good husband because he's not leaving me despite me being an old woman, that he lets me work and that he's not making me stay at home. That's right. He accused me of trying to grab a male attention and called me names. I was frustrated and angry with the whole incident, and I should have been the one angry, but Gareth was extremely mad. I put my anger and my self-respect aside and tried to console him. He had not come home that night, so I dressed up all pretty and went to his office with flowers and dinner reservations. Guess what? I was shocked. He was naked on his desk in the office with one of his staff members, Lisa. She's 22, and when I walked in, Lisa grabbed her clothings and put them in the corner. Gareth, with no shame on his face, proceeded to do the same. I just walked out. I told him, you know what? We would discuss it when we got home. I went back home crying and waited the whole night to come home, and yeah, he never came. The next morning he walked in, and I asked him why he had not come home. He told me that he was finishing off his business, and I was absolutely disgusted. I asked him why he cheated on me. He blamed me. Everything on me. Told me he wasn't attracted to me since I could not give him a child and did not even look attractive. He handed me divorce papers right then and there and told me he didn't want me to be his wife anymore because there's no reason for him to be with me. I asked him whether he loved me or not, and I told him that I loved him. He said that he never loved me because, well, I'm unlovable. I never felt so betrayed and offended in my life. I could feel the sadness in my throat and anger filling my belly. He told me it's best I sign those papers and just leave. I signed them, called the removal men immediately, and moved to my old house. I was crying the whole night because I actually believed all the time that he loved me. I felt awful that all the wonderful words of love he said to me before the marriage were, guess what? Fake, phony, and all this time he was doing nothing but lying. No one can even imagine how much pain I was in at the moment. I kept calling him multiple times, crying, asking him whether what he said was true and wasn't just out of anger. I told him I was ready to forgive his infidelity and promised him I would make an effort to look attractive. I was doing stupid things at the time. I thought I was a complete failure. I was afraid of having a failed marriage and being single at 40. Each time I called, he said worse things to me. I felt bad every time. The divorce was finalized and I did not get anything because we signed a prenup. I didn't really care about the money at the time, and I didn't care about alimony. I was too consumed by the sadness of my broken marriage, and I took a break from work for a month. My girl gang came home and gave me a pep talk and told me I should get my life back together. Eventually, I picked myself up, went back to work, and started leading a normal life again. I invested and spent time on meditation, skincare, and my girls just took me out every week to make me feel better. I'm also grateful for them being there for me when I needed them the most. I just can't thank them enough. I started going out and socializing with people. It temporarily made me feel better, and I was used to being alone. But for the first time in a long time, I actually felt lonely. I felt as if there was a void in my life without a partner. Well, I distanced myself from Gareth everywhere so that I did not think about him. But Gareth and his mom Jennifer started trash talking, spreading these rumors about me, telling people that the reason for the divorce was because I was infertile, and I was not a dutiful wife. They told everyone that I cheated on him by hiding my infertility from him before the wedding and that Gareth was very passionate about having children, but I did not want any. I was made to look like a villain, and a lot of people in our social circle started to resent me. I could see it on their faces, and the worst part of it was that my mom blamed me for the divorce, told me that she was so disappointed. I could not believe my own mom. That's when I decided that I had to get him back for everything that he put me through. Soon after Gareth announced that he was getting married again to a woman called Beth, I was astonished and slightly upset over how fast he moved on. I spent a lot of time stalking her social media and trying to find out what she had that I didn't. This is what one toxic relationship does to you, and I wanted to get back at him fast. So I started posting a lot of pictures on social media that he would see. I was very happy. He would also post pictures with Beth, and it made me kind of upset. I desperately wanted to get back at him and show him that he was wrong. I got sent back into my life. I bumped into James at a shopping center. He revealed that he was actually working with Gareth, and I revealed to him the real reason I transferred him elsewhere. I told him everything that he did because of built-up frustration. He told me that he thinks he's the red flag, a real misogynistic person. After working with him, he offered to help me get back at him and told me he'd give me anything I needed as artillery. He revealed that he'll forever be grateful to me because the compensation I gave him saved his mother's life, who at the time needed emergency surgery, and the insurance simply did not cover it. I didn't see how James could help me because I didn't even have a plan. James called me a couple of days later and told me to check my email. It was a recording of him revealing that he's actually marrying Beth because of her dad's money to his boss. I immediately remembered how he took my money and told me that it was a bad investment and that it was all a loss. I couldn't believe that he was doing everything for money. I knew I needed to show his true colors to everyone, and the next day, James sent me another email containing hospital bills for his vasectomy, clearly mentioning his name, and it was dated years before our wedding. I went to a gynecologist and did a checkup. The doctor said I don't have any fertility issues and that my body was healthy. I was shocked to discover that Gareth was the reason I could not get pregnant. He literally blamed it all on me. I was mad because of his lies. He blamed me and also told everyone that I was infertile. It was humiliating, embarrassing, and I wanted to get back at him for everything that he did. I decided that his wedding would be the perfect day to do so, because I wanted to face as much humiliation as, well, I did, when he was being around telling everyone that I was a bad wife and that I couldn't have a baby. I made a presentation that had the recordings of James, what he sent me, screenshots of his abusive text, proof of his vasectomy. I crashed that wedding as a guest. I stayed slowly profiled so that no one could even notice me. When the bride entered, I got everyone's attention and played the recording at the presentation on the screen projector. There were gasps in the air amongst the guests, and everybody looked shocked upon their face. The quaint aura changed as people started to chit-chat. I said thank you and left after telling Beth to reconsider her choices if she did not want to be tortured and wanted her mental peace. I went home with a huge feeling of satisfaction and partied with my friends that day. The next day, I found out that Beth went ahead with the wedding anyways. I thought that she would literally just go ahead and call it off, but it was rather not happening, and I was surprised. Gareth was good at gaslighting and making excuses, and I was kind of mad that the wedding wasn't canceled. But I was happy that at least now everyone knew that Gareth was the one who could not have a kid, and it was not my fault. Now everyone knows how abusive and what a big fat liar he is. I leave it to time to teach that gold digger a lesson. I now realize that even though Gareth was in the wrong, I was the one who let him torment me. I should not have let him get so far and should have stood up for myself much sooner. I now realize that everything was an excuse and he was just using me all this time. This is a lesson for everyone reading. Yeah, don't settle for less and leave them if they're showing toxic red flags. It's going to end eventually, and it's much better if you save yourself self-respect. Another lesson is that there's no perfect time to get married. Your body is not a clock, and finding the right person for you is more important than getting married on time. Thanks for reading. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's Claire again. I thought that you guys would like to hear what happened next after my last post about Gareth. I knew he would not stay quiet after everything I did. He found out that James was the one who was the mole. He fired James immediately and gave him a bad track record. I know James has perfect skills, so I hired him at the office. I was happy to have James on my team. James told me that Gareth said that he would ruin my life after what I did at his wedding. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of nervous upon hearing that. Gareth filed a case against me and called the police because I trespassed on his wedding and, well, defamed him. I had to pay a fine and some compensation to him, and I was mad at the fact that he was ruining my track record over something so minuscule and little. I'd regularly talk about this with James because now we both have beef with him. James suggested that I file a claim against him for the money he took from me. I went through my bank and found the statements of the history when I gave him money to invest. I filed a small claims court. If he was going legal, then you know what? I'd go legal too. He argued that I gave him the money without a promise of return and that he was my husband back then. I showed them text of him while I was at work, forcing me to give him money to invest even though I didn't want to. So the court decides that since I did not get anything in alimony because of the prenup and that I did not want to give him the money in the first place, it was fair for me to ask for the money back. Gareth had to pay in full. He was also asked in court what he used the money for, and he had to admit that he lied about investing the money. He told me that I was not being fair to him and asked me why I wasn't letting him live in peace. I told him he was the one not letting me live in peace and filling all these cases against me for trivial reasons. After an argument outside the court between me and Gareth, he told me that I'd regret whatever I did. I told him that I'm not wrong for wanting my money back. He influenced a client who was going to seal a deal with my company. The client called off the deal, and my seniors really gave me a hard time. I couldn't believe that he would let our personal matters affect work life. He was playing a very dirty game, and I wanted to show him that two can play that game, mister. I spoke to my lawyer, Olivia, and discussed the prenup with her. She told me to go ahead, and so yeah, I filed a case against him for hiding his vasectomy from me and divorcing me on the grounds that I was infertile. It was a win! Yeah. It was proven by my gynecologist that I did not have any fertility issues and that Gareth was the one who in fact had a vasectomy through his medical records. He was charged on the basis of withholding information, filing a divorce on the wrongful grounds, and mentally tormenting me. I was happy with the judge's decision. They made Gareth pay me a huge compensation for everything that he did. I told him that I would do a lot more, but I would stop only if he left me alone. I feel that ever since the divorce, I have changed a lot. I have a lot of resentment in me for Gareth, and I'm unable to close the chapter in my life because of the cheap tactics he's using to annoy me. I feel the need to get back at him and show him what I'm capable of, and that he can't get away with anything he wants. I don't know how long I can keep doing this, guys. I want it to stop, but I don't want to stay quiet and not retaliate either. All this is taking a toll on my professional life, and he needs to understand that he's the one in the wrong and he's getting what he deserves. It should just accept it and leave me alone. Anyways, that's all for now. Thank you for reading. Love, Claire. Update number 2. Hey, I know it's been a really long time since I've updated you all, and I don't know how many people are still tuned in because I could tell from the comments that it's become a lot of people's personal goal to show Gareth his plays. For everybody who's cheered me on ever since my first post, I love you for that, and I thank you so much for your support. Gareth and Beth made it their life motive to ruin my life and were plotting against me. They were trying to play a game against me, and I wasn't going to let them win. Beth's father, Donald, approached me and asked for my help. I was confused as to why he would need my help, and Beth doesn't like Donald because he expects her to do something with her life. But Beth doesn't want to. I feel bad for her because she has all this generational wealth to really do something for herself, but she refuses to. Anyways, I'm not going to judge her for her choices. Donald revealed that Beth is shown as an employee at his company, even though she doesn't do anything and owns shares too. She gets a huge sum of money every month, and Gareth lives, on her money. And he's piling up his bank balance. Donald did a background check on him, and it showed that he's been a gold digger all his life. He dates these rich women, right? And leaves them when he's done what he wants with them. He's from a very wealthy family and does so well for himself, so I don't understand why he's like this. Does he do it for fun? Or is he just really frugal? Anyways, I don't think that we'll ever know. But all his ex-girlfriend have admitted to his behavior being that way. Donald desperately wanted Beth to leave him, and Donald convinced me to talk to her and try to show her Gareth's true colors. I knew she would not believe me because Gareth had her convinced that I was plotting against him and that the recording I played at the wedding was a fake. I can't believe she even believed him. I think Gareth has a pattern and just chooses women who are pushovers and who blindly trust him. I agreed to talk to Beth, but I knew it would not work. I called Beth at the restaurant anonymously and just prayed that she would come. She came, but when she saw me, she was leaving. I somehow sweetly requested that she stay and told her about Gareth and how toxic he was. Surprisingly, he was very sweet and loving to Beth, and they had a nice relationship. I showed her texts from where, me and Gareth were together. I was hoping that she would realize how manipulative he can be. Beth just said I was the problem, not him. I tried to be patient, even though she was saying the worst kind of things about me right to my face. Eventually, after so much trying to convince her, she just got up and left. After the whole meetup with Beth, Gareth got really angry, and I got angry calls from him. I was mad at Donald because I told him talking to her would not work. I told Donald that there was only one way we could do it. Cut her off of the income. Donald says he cannot, as he would have to fire her. I told Donald it was the only way that she would realize sooner, or Gareth was going to use her entire life. Donald argued that it would bring Beth humiliation and that he could lose his daughter forever, and I told him she'd come back to him once she realized he was right. So Donald let her go, and she really gave Donald an earful over the call. She said she did not need his money and that her husband would take care of her. Gareth protested and told Beth that she should fight with Donald for her rights. Beth, on the other hand, told Gareth they did not need it and refused to argue with Donald over it. Gareth's behavior towards Beth changed after that, as expected. He would deny giving money to her for expenses and would say that she's starting to become unattractive. He would call her a freeloader and a burden. Gareth started showing the same toxic behavior to Beth because she wasn't bringing him money. At first, Beth thought it was just a phase and he'd get over it, but over time she realized it was about the money, after listening to his taunts and abusive language towards Beth. Frustrated, Beth came to speak to Donald and told him that he was right and that she needs his support while she was going to divorce Gareth. Donald was over the moon as his daughter became closer to him than she was before. Donald started her income again, and Beth went home to tell Gareth that she had spoken to Donald and she was going to get money again. Gareth's face lit up. He was happy about the whole thing, except Beth announced that she's going to divorce him. Gareth protested and told Beth that she could not divorce him because he treated her so well. Beth took her luggage, moved back in with her parents in their mansion, and Beth divorced Gareth and actually started working for Donald. See, he used his influence and made sure Gareth was sacked from his job. Of course, he did not just get fired, he had dirt on him. But his bosses kept it a secret before, and now that they wanted to sack him at Donald's insistence, they all let it out. Donald thanked me for making the difficult choice of cutting her off because he was scared that his daughter would become even colder towards him. Gareth had messed with the wrong people, and I'm glad I stood up for myself and did not stay quiet against him. As for me, I found a new guy. Steven! He's a wonderful man, and this time I'm going to not rush it and give it as much time as I need. I go to therapy now to help let go of my childhood trauma and the pain caused by my marriage to Gareth. My parents weren't very supportive during my divorce phase, and I've kept my distance from them ever since. I'm grateful to my girls for supporting me, and I'm really grateful to James, who helped me a lot when I wanted to get back to Gareth. I can't say that having vengeful thoughts really helped me overall, but at the time, it made me feel better and helped me cope. All this frustration made me consider therapy, and I'm happy I took this step again. Thank you for reading. Love, Claire. So this is one of those stories where it works out the best for OP. We find out that OP at the end of the story actually is in love now, and she has found a new man. And as for Gareth, it doesn't look like he got the better end of the bargain. I want to know your thoughts about today's story, what you would have done if you were in OP's position. Yes, there was revenge involved, pettiness, narcissism. There was just a lot to this story. I want to know your thoughts about it, so do drop a comment down below. Guys, if you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for joining me on today's video. And if you did enjoy it, just know I post a story every single day. So make sure you subscribe. Check out my other channels in the description as well if you just can't get enough stories. I have plenty. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, but do remember one thing. It's cool to be kind. See ya.